There you are, standing in the aftermath like the universe hasn't stopped staring at you since last night. You feel it, don't you? That tremor under your ribs, not fear, not guilt, but the echo of something ancient that woke up inside you when everything went silent, what you did. Ha 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 ha. They're calling it justice, but you and I both know better. Justice is human. What you delivered was cosmic, a sentence older than language, spoken through your hands, your breath, your rage that wasn't rage. It was inevitability. There's a reason the room felt colder afterward, a reason they looked at you like you weren't supposed to survive yourself, a reason every single person who witnessed even the afterglow of what you unleashed walked away feeling like they saw a god lose patience. See, they thought you were acting out of emotion, but emotion is messy. Your decision? It was clean, surgical, predestined. Cosmic sentences aren't improvised. They're triggered, and last night, something triggered you. Let's not pretend you didn't feel it. That shift in your chest when something inside you whispered, "Enough." And just like that, you became the courtroom, the judge, the knife, the silence. You became the thing people pray doesn't look in their direction when they lie awake at 3 a.m., replaying every mistake they've ever made. You didn't punish anyone. You executed a law written before their bloodline even existed. And now the air around you moves differently. People pretend not to stare, but their instincts won't shut up. They can sense it. The way predators sense storms, the way children sense monsters hiding in the dark. Because last night wasn't about what they did to you. It was about who you finally realized you are. The duality inside you, the saint and the psychopath, the angel and the demon. You didn't choose between them. You fused them. You became the paradox that terrifies every system built on prediction. A compassionate executioner, a merciful storm, a righteous catastrophe. Do you understand how terrifying that combination is? People can fight evil. People can reason with good. But someone who carries both, who decides which blade to use depending on the truth they feel in their bones, that's someone you can't map, can't control, can't manipulate, can't bribe. That's someone whose silence is enough to reset entire hierarchies. And that's why today feels strange, doesn't it? The world is quiet around you, not peaceful. Cautious. Like reality is choosing its words carefully. Because once a cosmic sentence is spoken, everything changes. It's not them versus you anymore. It's them versus the version of you that no longer apologizes for existing. And the funniest part? They think it's over. But cosmic sentences don't end when the words fade. They echo, they spread, they ripple through timelines like warnings carved into stone. And you're walking around like the embodiment of a prophecy that they didn't prepare for, so welcome back to the real story. Welcome to the version of you that finally stopped shrinking. Welcome to the part where even the universe takes a step back and whispers, "Careful." They just woke up the one who speaks in consequences. Good. Stay right there because the world hasn't exhaled since you stepped into the room. They're watching you in ways they don't even understand. Pupils dilating, pulse spiking, breath stuttering in their throat. Because something about you feels like a verdict still unfolding. Last night wasn't an incident. It wasn't a reaction. It wasn't even a choice. It was a signal. A cosmic flare shot straight through the fabric of whatever flimsy reality they thought they understood. A reminder that certain souls, certain rare, dangerous, beautifully unhinged souls, don't seek balance. They restore it. And sometimes restoring balance looks less like harmony and more like a quiet apocalypse disguised as a human being. You walked into that moment with the weight of every humiliation, every betrayal, every suppressed scream stitched under your skin. And for the first time in your life, the universe didn't whisper, "Hold back." It whispered, "Finish it." And you did not with chaos, not with frenzy, but with the cold precision of someone who has finally made peace with both sides of themselves. Because that's the part they don't understand. The light in you, that soft, tender, golden peace you protect with your entire existence, and the darkness in you, the ancient, bone-deep shadow that doesn't flinch, doesn't blink, doesn't apologize. They're not rivals, they're allies. And last night, they worked together. Do you know how rare that is? How lethal? Most people spend their whole lives trying to separate their innocence from their madness, trying to hide their rage behind a smile, trying to bury their wounds under excuses. But you cracked open the vault and let both halves breathe. You let the guardian and the monster speak in one voice. You let the halo and the horns form a single silhouette. You became the kind of creature that nightmares kneeled to and prayers feared to mention. No wonder they're trembling. Because when someone like you stops holding back, the world remembers something it tries very hard to forget. Justice is human, judgment is divine. But a cosmic sentence? That's personal. You weren't carrying out revenge. Revenge is emotional, sloppy, predictable. What you did was inevitable. A response written into the architecture of your existence. They crossed a line that was never meant to be crossed. A line older than gravestones, older than guilt, older than the blood that pumps through their cowardly veins. And the moment they stepped over it, the universe tagged you, activated you, called on something inside you that sleeps in most people and wakes in almost no one. A force that doesn't shout. A force that doesn't brag. A force that doesn't demand to be seen. A force that watches, waits, calculates, strikes when the time is not right, but true. You became that force last night, and here's what terrifies them the most. You didn't collapse afterward. You didn't doubt yourself. You didn't second-guess the moment you walked away, calm, slow, collected, like someone who already knew how the story would end, like someone who's delivered sentences before, like someone who could deliver them again without hesitation. Because now that this part of you has awakened, there's no going back. Your presence alone feels like a warning. Your silence feels like a countdown. Your eyes feel like a courtroom where the truth stands trial. You don't even realize it yet, but everyone around you does. You changed the narrative. You flipped the hierarchy. You rewired the room. You became the consequence. They're adjusting their behavior, their decisions, their words, subconsciously aligning themselves so they don't end up on the wrong side of your next revelation. You think they don't know. They know. They don't know how you did it. They don't know why it happened. But they know damn well what it means. There's no safety in underestimating you anymore. You're a storm disguised as a human, a sentence disguised as a heartbeat, a reckoning disguised as a quiet exhale. And the next time life tries you, the next time someone steps into your orbit without respect, you won't need anger. You'll need a moment, a look, a breath. Because creatures like you don't fight. You correct. And once the universe chooses you to carry out its corrections, every wrong move someone makes in your direction comes with a price tag they can't afford. Last night wasn't the climax. It was the calibration, the moment the cosmos recognized you as an executor of balance. Unpredictable, unstoppable, uncontainable. You're not living your story anymore. You're sentencing it. And everyone who crossed you, they're already living out the consequences. They just haven't realized who issued them yet. Stay still for a moment, because something in the atmosphere is bending around you, and if you breathe too loudly, you'll miss it. That vibration you feel in your bones, that's not adrenaline, that's aftermath. The residue of a force that slipped through you like you were a doorway instead of a person. What you did last night didn't end anything. It began something. A chain reaction, a rewriting of hierarchies, a silent shift in the power structure of every room you walk into. People keep glancing at you today, not because they're curious, but because their instincts are screaming. Something ancient has touched this one, and instincts never lie. Look at your reflection. Really look. There's a stillness in your eyes now, a dangerous calm, the kind that appears in predators that don't need to roar. You're not radiating rage, you're radiating finality, the kind that says, I don't warn twice. They feel that, even if they don't have the vocabulary for it, even if they can't explain the chill in their spine when you walk past. They know the line they crossed is not a place anyone returns from. What you unleashed wasn't emotional. It was elemental. It wasn't you snapping. It was everything you've survived finally gaining a voice. And that voice was cold, measured, inevitable. You didn't lash out. You delivered an overdue correction. You didn't explode. You aligned the scales. And here's what they'll never confess out loud. For a split second, last night, they didn't see you as a victim or a threat or a challenger. They saw you as a verdict, walking, thinking, breathing. A verdict they couldn't outrun, couldn't negotiate with, couldn't deceive. Because you didn't act like someone hurt, you acted like someone activated. You moved like someone who understood their own darkness for the first time. Not as a curse, not as a flaw, but as a tool, sharpened by years of betrayal, discipline, silence, and self-discovery. And this is the part that haunts them the most. You didn't hesitate. Last night was your unveiling. You finally stood in your own truth without flinching away from it. You didn't apologize for your darkness. You didn't hide your light. You didn't negotiate with your own instincts. You just acted cleanly, sharply, in perfect alignment with the core of who you've become. And the cosmos responded. Everything around you is different today, not because you changed, but because the world realized it can't treat you like a mistake anymore. You're an equation, a law of nature, a variable no one can predict, calculate, or manipulate. You're not the storm, you're the moment before the storm. The eerie, breathless stillness that makes every survival instinct scream. And every person who crossed you, every person who doubted you, every person who tried to mold you into something lesser, they're waking up today with a feeling they can't shake. Something happened, and it's coming for us. They don't know what you'll do next. And that's exactly why they're terrified, because people can fight rage. People can dismiss emotion. People can ignore fragility. But what you radiate now, it's none of those. It's certainty. The certainty of someone who no longer seeks protection, who no longer accepts disrespect, who no longer confuses patience with permission. You've become the kind of person who can walk away from absolutely anything and absolutely anyone, and sleep peacefully afterward. That level of detachment, that level of self-awareness, that level of inner power, it's fatal to the fragile. It's toxic to the manipulative. It's devastating to the ones who relied on you staying small. And here's the twist. They don't fear what you did last night. They fear what last night revealed. that you're willing to burn the bridge and the river beneath it if the cost of crossing is your peace. You've become the embodiment of natural selection. Spiritual, emotional, psychological. If someone can't meet you with truth, with respect, with alignment, they get removed, not with violence, not with drama, not with shouting, with a sentence, a cosmic one, final, irreversible, silent. The kind that echoes, the kind that leaves people replaying every moment, every word, every lie they ever told you, wondering which one sealed their fate. You know the answer. The universe does too. But you'll never say it, because the most terrifying judges aren't the ones who speak. They're the ones who simply look at you and know, so stand there now, in the calm after the collapse. Look around at the empty space where their power used to be. Listen to the quiet that only appears when the truth has finally been spoken. Last night wasn't justice. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't impulse. It was clarity. The moment the universe stopped testing you and started answering through you, and now the world understands something it should have feared all along. You're not guided by anger. You're guided by alignment. You don't react, you correct. And the ones who crossed you, they're not your enemies anymore. They're your examples. That's why today feels different. Lighter, sharper. You finally stepped into the version of you that doesn't beg to be understood, only witnessed. So let them whisper. Let them tremble. Let them rethink every interaction they ever had with you. Because the cosmic sentence you delivered last night, it wasn't for them. It was for you. A declaration, a threshold crossed, a promise sealed. You will never shrink again. And with that, your verdict is complete. People who hesitate can be manipulated. People who second guess can be controlled. People who seek approval can be contained. But someone who reacts with absolute clarity, someone who looks an injustice dead in the eye and responds without blinking, that's someone who cannot be predicted, and unpredictability, that's terror. That's chaos with direction. That's danger with a moral compass. That's exactly what collapsed entire empires in the past. They don't fear your power. Power can be measured. They fear your alignment. They fear that for the first time in your life, your pain and your purpose finally shook hands. Your shadow stopped fighting your light. Your innocence stopped apologizing to your rage. Your compassion stopped babysitting your boundaries. Last night, everything inside you reached an agreement. We rise together, or not at all. And the second that pact formed, you became something new. Something people don't have a word for. Not hero, not villain, not judge, not executioner. Something in between, and far more terrifying. A hybrid. A paradox, a creature stitched together by contradiction so perfectly that no system can categorize you, and that's what makes you lethal. Because systems fear what they cannot map, cowards fear what they cannot predict, and bullies fear what they cannot control. You are the embodiment of all three nightmares at once. That's why every room feels like it's waiting. Like conversations pause when you enter, like the air tightens around your silhouette. They're not afraid of what you did. They're afraid of what you've now become. An answer to every unanswered wrong, a consequence with a pulse, a cosmic force wearing a human disguise. And here's the quiet truth you haven't accepted yet. The universe didn't choose you at random. It chose you because you've been preparing for this. Through every betrayal, every heartbreak, every humiliation, every wound that didn't kill you, but carved you into a sharper shape. Last night was not a reaction. It was a graduation. You stepped into the version of you that was always waiting behind the trauma, behind the fear, behind the self-doubt, and now the world is holding its breath. Because once someone delivers their first cosmic sentence, they never go back to being the defendant. They become the law. And you, whether you admit it or not, have already started rewriting reality around you. So breathe, walk, look them in the eyes, let them see what they awakened, let them feel what it means to stand in the presence of someone who doesn't break. They trigger you, you transform, they cross you, you calibrate, they test you, you terminate the illusion that they ever had power over you. Last night didn't make you dangerous, it made you inevitable. Good. Let it settle, because the world around you is still rearranging itself, like reality is shuffling its deck to make room for the creature you've become. You feel it in your spine, don't you? That cold pressure, that subtle electric hum like the universe is pacing behind you, whispering, more. There's more in you. Last night wasn't a peak, it was the activation code. A switch flipped, a seal cracked. A door inside you, one you didn't know existed, swung wide open, and something old, something fierce, something beautifully merciless stepped forward. And now your energy feels different. Not angry, not violent, corrective. You're moving like a force that doesn't seek permission, doesn't require validation, doesn't ask the world what role it's allowed to play. You are rewriting your role as you walk. People can feel that in ways they don't have language, for their bodies tense, their voices falter, their eyes flicker with a fear they'd never admit. Because when someone has delivered a cosmic sentence, the sentence doesn't stay in that moment. It follows them, it travels with them, bleeds into their presence, hangs off their shadow like a warning sign, carved in ancient script. You've become one of those rare beings whose silence weighs more than other people's threats. You don't need to raise your voice to dominate a room. You don't need to explain yourself to justify your decisions. Your very existence changed vocabulary overnight. Because what you did last night, it didn't just expose them, it exposed you. It showed them the blueprint you tried to hide, the one made from every wound you stitched shut with your own teeth, every lesson you learned the hard way, every time you chose to evolve instead of collapse. They thought breaking you would weaken you, but breaking you only revealed the architecture underneath. And that architecture, it isn't human, it's mythologic, symbolic, primordial. You're built like one of those beings' stories warn children about, not to frighten them, but to prepare them. If you meet someone like this, choose your words wisely. Bro, listen closely, because the air just shifted when you walked in, like the room itself remembered who you are before you did. You felt that, didn't you? That microscopic tremor in the atmosphere, that subtle drop in temperature, that invisible gasp hiding in the walls. Good, because that's what happens when someone who unmade an entire bloodline steps into the light. Not a rumor, not an exaggeration, not a myth sculpted by bored mouths. You, one person, a single pulse, a single breath, a single shadow. And you turned a whole lineage into a case study whispered in panic behind locked doors at 3 a.m. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what terrifies them so badly. They can't even form your name without their throat tightening like a noose made of their own shame. You want to know the truth? It wasn't the move you made. It wasn't the strategy. It wasn't the timing. It wasn't the precision. It was the audacity to walk into a dynasty that thought it was untouchable and treat it like a warm-up stretch. The audacity to dismantle a network that took decades to build. With the calm of someone deciding what to eat for lunch, the audacity to evolve so violently, so unpredictably, that every projection model they had melted into static. They thought you needed legacy. They thought you needed a crew. They thought you needed a team, a council, a bloodline of your own. But you needed silence. You needed pain. You needed pressure so violent it fractured everything soft in you and revealed the part they never predicted. The part that doesn't break. The part that hunts. The part that walks alone without flinching. The part that carries both halo and hellfire in the same heartbeat. You are the paradox they can't calculate, a saint with a psychopath's tolerance for chaos, an angel with a demon's appetite for destruction, a ghost that still casts a shadow, a weapon that still feels a storm that still thinks. You are the mistake in their logic, the glitch in their family tree, the curse their ancestors forgot to warn them about. And that's why they're terrified, not because you won, because you rewrote the rules on what winning even means. They built their bloodline on fear, reputation, tradition, and you walked through it like it was dry grass in your way. You didn't just beat them. You didn't just expose them. You didn't just outmaneuver them. You eclipsed them. You became the gravitational force they orbit now. Whether they like it or not, look at you. Do you see yourself now? Do you finally understand why their voice cracks when they try to whisper your name? You didn't just survive what they threw at you. You adapted to it. You fed on it. You let it poison you just enough to build an immunity so absolute, it's indistinguishable from power. You are the kind of creature pain accidentally created, and then regretted immediately after. Let me tell you the part they will never admit. You didn't destroy their bloodline. You exposed the truth. They were never built to face someone like you. They were built to intimidate the weak. You were built to end what preys on the weak. They came from history. You came from the breach. That silent place between breakdown and rebirth, where monsters and miracles are shaped by the same fire. Tell me, do you know how rare it is for someone to walk alone and not crumble? Do you know how frightening it is for them to realize you don't need a last name, a family crest, a council of elders, a dynasty behind you? All you need is focus, and maybe a little rage. Because when you walk, you don't walk like a person. You walk like a verdict. You walk like the universe finally sent a consequence. You want to know why they'll never say your name out loud? Because they know the moment they speak it, the moment that sound hits the air, the truth becomes real again. That somewhere out there, breathing, observing, calculating, is the person who took everything they thought was permanent and turned it into a cautionary tale, you. The one who walked into a bloodline and walked out a legacy. The one who wasn't supposed to exist and yet somehow became the standard, the one they underestimated and now can't even mention without scanning the room first. So stand there. Listen to the way the world rearranges itself around you. You didn't just solo a bloodline. You redesigned the definition of alone. And now they pray. Not for mercy, not for forgiveness, but for distance, because they know the second you decide to move again, the next lineage disappears too. Ah, there it is. That feeling creeping up your spine like a cold memory waking up good. Don't run from it. That's the part of you they tried to bury long before you knew what it was. Let's pick up right where we left off. In the shadow of the truth they can't swallow. You didn't just erase a bloodline. You proved you never needed one. And that terrifies them more than the loss itself. Because do you want to know what shakes a dynasty to its core? Not an enemy with an army, not a threat with a plan, not even a monster with a motive. What shakes them, what makes them sweat behind locked boardroom doors, is a singular human anomaly. A lone figure with no backup, no banner, no legacy, no heirs, no leash. Walking through their entire infrastructure like it was made of wet paper. Tell me, have you noticed the way people flinch now? How they speak more carefully? How their eyes track you with the caution of prey that remembers the shape of the predator that marked them? It's not paranoia, it's recognition. They recognize what you became when everything familiar in you died. When the soft parts melted, when innocence choked in your throat, when the world pushed you off the edge, and you didn't fall, you climbed. You climbed in the dark with bleeding hands. You climbed with no torch. You climbed with no rope. Just the refusal to stay where they threw you, and somewhere between the bottom and the surface, you became something they don't have a name for. You see, they understand evil. They understand cruelty. They understand violence, revenge, bitterness. But you became a paradox they can't catalog. You carry light, but it flickers through cracks they caused. You carry darkness, but it obeys you like a loyal animal. You smile like an angel, but your silence feels like a threat. You speak softly, but every word reminds them they can bleed. That's what they fear. Not your strength, not your intelligence, not your strategy. They fear your calm. Because calm people are predictable. But your calm is the eye of a hurricane that chooses when to move. You walk with the serenity of someone who has absolutely nothing left to lose, and absolutely everything still ahead of them. Do you have any idea how powerful that is? Dynasties crumble under that kind of aura. Entire genealogies whisper warnings about people like you. The ones who evolve under pressure, the ones who adapt faster than they can attack, the ones who come out of tragedy not wounded, but weaponized. And that's why they're silent now. That's why they don't say your name. That's why even the boldest among them keep their opinions locked behind their tongue. Because you didn't just break their bloodline. You broke their illusion of safety. You dismantled what they thought was permanent. You shattered what they thought was destiny. You exposed what they thought was unshakable. And worst of all, you did it without breaking a sweat. Imagine how they felt watching the downfall unfold in real time. Fingers twitching, voices cracking, eyes darting, realizing that everything they built on intimidation crumbled against someone who doesn't intimidate, someone who doesn't negotiate, someone who doesn't beg, someone who doesn't even warn. You just move, silently, decisively, like an executioner with eternity in his pocket. And now the aftermath. The aftermath is legend. Your name has turned into a ghost story parents tell their arrogant children. Don't cross someone who walks alone. Don't provoke the quiet one. Don't awaken the wrong soul. Generals talk about you like a natural disaster. Psychologists talk about you like a case they can't diagnose. Your enemies talk about you like a curse. Because nothing else explains how one person erased generations of power with a single timeline of precision. But here's the part that keeps them up at night. You didn't even use your final form. This wasn't your peak. This wasn't your masterpiece. This wasn't the height of your evolution. This was you. Surviving, not trying, not showing off, not unleashing, just living. And your just living ended a family tree that lasted centuries. So imagine, just imagine, what happens the day you finally decide to stop holding back. Imagine the seismic fear that will ripple through the world when they realize if one bloodline fell by accident, What happens when you aim? What happens when you choose? What happens when you want? They don't say your name because it's safer not to summon storms. But you're the storm that learned how to walk upright. The storm that learned language. The storm that learned patience. The storm that learned restraint. And that is the most dangerous kind. You didn't just solo a bloodline. You became the reason future ones will think twice before crossing a quiet stranger. And now the whole world waits. Breath held, spine tight, heart trembling, wondering if the next dynasty to disappear will be theirs. Do you feel that? That slow, heavy shift in the atmosphere? Like the world itself is bracing for whatever you're about to do next. Good, because we're far from finished. You see, ending a bloodline isn't what unsettled them the most. It's what you did after. You didn't boast. You didn't claim a throne. You didn't stand over the ruins and shout your victory to the sky. No, you walked away, quietly, calmly, like you just crossed a street, not a century-old legacy. Do you understand how psychologically devastating that is? Not rage, not spite, not celebration, indifference. It tells them everything they needed to know, that their grand dynasty, their sacred legacy, their entire ancestral empire wasn't even an opponent to you. It was an obstacle, a step, a pebble on the road you're carving through history with your bare hands. They weren't destroyed by your anger. They were destroyed by your evolution. And evolution, true evolution, is silent, patient, deliberate. Let me explain something they will never admit. You are not the villain of their story. You are the limit they never planned for, the limit their forefathers never imagined, the limit their systems were never built to withstand. Every dynasty, every kingdom, every bloodline has a boundary, a point beyond which they cannot grow, cannot defend, cannot win. And you became their boundary. You became the edge, the end. That's why their historians whisper your story with shaky hands. That's why their strategists avoid your name, like a cancer. That's why their children grow up hearing warnings, disguised as folklore. Because the real horror wasn't that you defeated them, it was that you didn't even need to. You could have left them untouched, and still they would have collapsed under the weight of your existence. You want to know the real secret? People don't fear monsters. They fear mirrors, the ones that show them what they could have been if they didn't choose comfort over growth and entitlement over evolution. You are that mirror, the reflection of everything they weren't willing to become. And that burns more than any wound you inflicted. You force them to confront the truth. Their bloodline survived generations, but couldn't survive you, because you come from a different type of lineage, not through blood, but through fire. Fire born from betrayal, from nights of silence, from wounds no one saw, from victories no one celebrated, from storms that were supposed to break you, and instead forged you. You evolved through pain so brutal it rewired you. You learned to breathe underwater. You learned to see in darkness. You learned to move like an apparition, effortless, unpredictable, inevitable. And that's what makes you terrifying. You are not a product of comfort. You are not a product of legacy. You're not a product of a family name or inherited favor. You are a product of pressure, the kind that collapses most people but crystallized you. You shine because you were crushed. You rise because you were buried. You fight because you were underestimated. You dominate because they thought you were supposed to crumble. And now look, they hide, they whisper, they censor your name like it's a curse word. They lock rooms when discussing you. They check their reflections, wondering if you're behind them. They stay awake at night, replaying every decision that might have offended you. Because once someone has seen what you're capable of, how cleanly you dismantled a lineage, how effortlessly you walked away from the wreckage, they never stop wondering, if he did that without trying, what happens when he does? And do you want to know why that question scares them more than death? Because you don't move with emotion. You don't move with ego. You don't move with desperation. You move with intention. An intention backed by evolution is the most lethal force a human can wield. You walk like someone who's already survived the worst thing that could have happened, and someone who's survived their own personal apocalypse cannot be intimidated, cannot be manipulated, cannot be controlled. They fear you because you've outgrown their weapons. You've made their tactics obsolete, their intel useless, their strategies childish. You're playing on a level they don't have access to. And bloodlines, true bloodlines, know something most people don't. You don't fear the enemy that wants war. You fear the one who has nothing left to prove. You are that one. The quiet catastrophe, the smiling anomaly, the lone equation no dynasty can solve. And every step you take now, every breath, every choice, every flicker of your attention carries the weight of this terrifying truth. If you erased one bloodline just by existing, what happens when you decide to rewrite the world? They don't say your name because names give shape to reality. And shaping you feels like inviting fate to strike them twice. So let them fear. Let them whisper. Let them tremble behind their curtains and pretend the shadows aren't listening. Because deep down, they know. You didn't just solo a bloodline. You ended the era where people like them thought they were safe. You hear that? That tight, empty hush underneath the sound of your own breathing. That's not silence. That's the world holding its breath around you. Because when someone like you finishes dismantling a bloodline, people expect one of two things: a celebration or a collapse. But you gave them neither. You just kept walking, like the universe had merely removed a minor inconvenience from your path. And that has them spiraling because they can't map you, they can't predict you, they can't categorize you into a neat little box that makes them feel safe. You're not a hero, you're not a villain, you're not a martyr, you're not a tyrant. You are a moving anomaly, a consciousness that outgrew the emotional architecture of ordinary people. And when someone can't be categorized, they can't be controlled. That's what terrifies them most. You see, bloodlines like theirs aren't built on strength. They're built on scripts, rules, traditions, rituals, patterns. They depend on predictability. They thrive on routine. They survive on reputation. But you stepped into their world like a glitch that rewrote the code mid-sentence. You moved with logic that didn't follow their script. You reacted in ways their ancestors didn't document. You applied pressure in places they never fortified. You didn't attack head-on. You didn't provoke. You didn't threaten. You simply existed in a way that exposed everything fragile beneath their polished surface. You want to know why they avoid speaking your name? Because names hold power. Names summon memory. Names summon presence. Names summon truth. And the truth is this: your name has become synonymous with reckoning. Your existence is the living proof that a single person with clarity, pain-forged wisdom, and unshakable resolve is more powerful than an entire lineage built on entitlement. They don't fear your strength. They fear your transformation because they watched it happen. They saw it unfold in real time. They watched you crack open, not from weakness, but from pressure, and something ancient, something unkillable, something light and darkness, fused together, crawled out of your ribcage like destiny, remembering its shape. They watched your eyes change. They watched your silence deepen. They watched your soul harden into something that didn't need external validation to stand firm. They saw it, and they knew. We cannot survive a creature like that. A creature who feels everything, but doesn't collapse under emotion. A creature who sees everything, but doesn't crumble under truth. A creature who knows their darkness intimately, and still walks with the poise of someone who carries light in their pocket. You moved like a saint with a psychopath's intuition. Too awake to be manipulated, too observant to be deceived, too detached to be rattled. It wasn't brutality that ended their bloodline. It was clarity. A kind of clarity no dynasty is prepared to face. Clarity that slices cleaner than rage ever could. Clarity that dismantles systems without raising a voice. Clarity that turns a single person into an extinction event. And after you walked through them, after you reduced their dynasty into a cautionary whisper, what did you do? You didn't chase applause. You didn't demand a crown. You didn't proclaim dominion. You just continued. Quiet, steady, unhurried, untouched, like someone who had always known this outcome and simply moved on to the next phase. That's what breaks people, not the fall, not the end, not the destruction. What breaks them is your indifference, the realization that you weren't even fighting them. You were outgrowing them. Do you understand how destabilizing that is? They weren't defeated, they were outpaced. Their entire lineage became obsolete in the presence of your evolution. Imagine being them. Generations of preparation, centuries of pride, decades of strategy, inheritance built on dominance. And then one person, one quiet, unassuming person, walks through the cracks they never reinforced. And the entire legacy collapses like an abandoned cathedral. You are not the villain of their story. You are the inevitability they never accounted for, the storm they didn't prepare shelters for, the prophecy they didn't believe could manifest, the consequence they thought only applied to other people. And now look at you, still standing, unscarred in the places that matter, sharper than ever, calmer than ever, more dangerous than ever. And they know, if one bloodline fell simply by crossing your timeline, then every other dynasty watches from the shadows, praying, begging that fate never places you across theirs, because you didn't just solo a bloodline. You demonstrated a universal truth. One evolved human is stronger than 1,000 inherited crowns. And you're not done evolving.